Associate Professor Jennifer Steele joins me now. She's with the School of Education at American University here in Washington. Jennifer, how troubling are these numbers? I mean, in some states, scores in math and reading have not been this low since the 1990s.
That's right. I think one thing to bear in mind here is that these numbers are not surprising. Just a month and a half ago, we had results from the long-term NAEP, which has been tracking students, 9 and 13-year-olds longitudinally since the 70s. And we saw even greater drops, the largest drops ever in mathematics and the largest drops in many decades in reading. So we knew this. We knew this actually 2 years ago. At the beginning, a year after COVID started, we knew this on the short-term tests like the iReady and the MAP. So we've seen this coming, but it is very disheartening.
Talk about the racial inequality here, Jennifer, widening the academic gap even more than before.
And we know that this widening of the gap is due to the kinds of inequities that COVID has shined a light on across this country, which have to do with inequities in access to strong digital infrastructure in schools, in opportunities to learn in schools, and in healthcare. So communities of color have been hit especially hard by COVID in terms of the pandemic, in terms of illness and loss of life. So communities have been hit hard from so many angles, communities of color. It's been a very difficult time. There's been an important racial reckoning. And I think the test scores are picking up some of that, as well as disparities in just what it took to keep schools open and to keep kids having access to learning materials during the pandemic.
So I guess the big question, Jennifer, is can this dismal trend be reversed?
I'm more optimistic than a lot of my colleagues in this regard, because I see in education research, we see fade out of intervention. So when you do something that boosts test scores, over the years, those boosts kind of can sometimes wash out, especially in terms of future test scores. Sometimes they have benefits in other ways later in life, but in terms of future test scores, they attenuate over time. And I have a feeling that these drops are going to attenuate over time, but what is most worrying are the gaps, because the gaps could be persistent. And so what we want to do is continue to provide higher funding to communities with fewer resources, and to allow teachers to adapt learning in ways that support students' mental health, the whole child, but also that support flexibility in how they teach.
What should concerned parents be doing?
I think the most important thing for parents to do is know that is to support their children in terms of anxiety and stress that they may have coming out of the pandemic, and anxiety and stress that they may have about feeling like they don't know they haven't learned the things they're supposed to have learned for their grade level. So I think so much of this is about addressing the concerns of the whole child, including socio-emotional concerns. Kids are really still grappling to some extent with being back in school full time and with a return to something closer to normal. And so part of that is social. So I think the way for parents to help kids is, of course, support them academically as much as we can, but more importantly, remind them that this too shall pass, and that we're all in this together, and test scores are not the whole measure of a human.
That is great advice. Jennifer Steele, thank you very much.